Hey everybody, welcome to Math with Ace. We're focusing on statistics. Today we're going to be making pie and bar charts in Stapplet, the free online website that we use for statistical analysis. Now, when you're making pie and bar charts, back in the day, pie charts were made with a compass. You had your protractor to determine the angle or the degrees that you needed, and you would create the pie by hand. Now we are in an age of technology where you can use technology to make your pies, but it's important to understand what the pie chart is and how those numbers come about. Same with bar charts. A bar chart and a histogram look very similar as they are both rectangles. However, a bar chart is for categorical data, and the bars are not supposed to touch unless you are comparing different groups. Histograms have typically touching groups because the numbers are you're dealing with numbers that are on a number line, and the gaps are only represented by gaps in the data. So when you go to stapplet.com, again, you have to decide what type of data you're dealing with. Do you have categorical or do you have numerical? Do you have one group or do you have two groups? So for this data on the left, we have hair color. And I have a few varieties. I haven't really analyzed what this looks like in terms of how many we have of each. It looks like we have brown, we have black, we have blonde, we have red, brown, black, blonde, brown, we have gray, black, blonde, red, brown, black, gray, blonde, brown, red. Okay, so all of the groups. Looks like we have 5 different groups that we're dealing with. And then we could create the frequency if we wanted to. And then we could also create the relative frequency. Now, when you were creating a pie chart back in the day and you had to determine how large your pie slices were, it was based on the percentage of the data. How much of the circle was represented by how much was represented in the data. So if we have brown, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 brown people and 5 people with brown hair in this group. For black, it looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as well. For blonde, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If this is the same for each group, that's going to be silly. For red, there's 1, 2, 3. And then for gray, there's 2. So let's see, 15, okay, so that adds up to 20. So in this group, the sample size, which we use lowercase n, is 20. So if I wanted to create this is the frequency right here, but the relative frequency for brown would be to take 5 over 20, which I could write as 25%. So a quarter of the group had brown hair. For black hair, that's going to be 5 out of 20 as well, which is also 25%. For blonde hair, 5 out of 20 as well, which is 25%, which I'm writing as a decimal, 0.25. For red hair, that's 3 out of 20, which if I was to divide 3 out of 20, I would get 0.15 or 15%. And then for gray hair, I would have 2 out of 20, which as a decimal is 0.10 or 10%. So then in order to create this pie chart, what I would do is I would multiply 360 degrees by that percentage. So 0.25 times 360 degrees. And that would get me 90, which means that my angle would need to be 90. So I'd use my protractor and line it up to make this chunk that would be 90. So each group that was 25% would represent a quarter of that circle. And then I would do the same for the other pieces. For a bar chart, you can either use relative or raw frequency on the axis, but what you're doing is you're labeling brown, blonde, black, red, and gray on the x-axis, which is the horizontal axis, and then you are making a rectangle above that. Each rectangle should be the same width. You're making a rectangle above that to however high the data was, either in frequency or relative frequency. So let's represent this in Stapplet. That's how you would do it by hand. These are categorical, and I have a single group, so I'm going to go to one categorical variable, single group. And I'm going to move this over a little bit, and I'm going to call this hair color. And then I'm asked if I want to put in raw data or counts in categories. Raw data populates a box, and then it says enter observations separated by commas or spaces. If I was to do counts, then I could say, like I have on the left, brown, and that had a frequency of 5. I have black that has a frequency of 5, and then I would add rows for each additional variable. Blonde, or each category, sorry. Red, and then gray. So now that I've entered the counts in categories, I've made sure that all of my categories are capitalized, everything looks good for formatting. I would begin analysis. And below, I have the graph distribution. I'm given the title of the graph below. I have brown, black, blonde, red, and gray, which is the order I entered it in. I could change the order if I wanted to. I could put it in alphabetical order. I could do whatever order I wanted on the horizontal axis. And then I have frequency on the left. Now, if I wanted to change this to relative frequency, again, notice the picture doesn't change. The only thing that changes is the percents on the left-hand side. So this is a bar graph or a bar chart. Then plot type, I could change this to a segmented bar chart or a pie chart. So in the pie chart, again, brown, that's 90 degrees from 0, 25% of the data, 25% of the data, 25% of the data. I have 15% for red and 10% for gray, which is what we calculated. Now, in a pie chart, they're not giving you they're not giving you raw frequency. They're actually giving you the percents because you want to add up to 100% or a whole. A segmented bar chart is a single bar that is broken up, that 100% broken up into the percentages of the individual sections. So that gray, 10, red, 15, and then the other 25%, and notice it goes all the way up to 100%. If I wanted to enter raw data, like if I wanted to copy and paste this information, or if I wanted to type it, I want to show y'all something. I'm going to go here and I'm going to say raw data. Yes, I'm sure. And I'm going to type in the information that's given. Okay, now I'm going to begin analysis. Wow, there is way more categories than we should have. We should only have 5 categories, but we have a ton. So hopefully, maybe you were paying attention when I typed things in, maybe you weren't, but let's look at our hair color on the axis. We could even look at the summary statistics. I have brown, black, blonde, red, black. Why do I have black twice? These charts are case sensitive. And what case sensitive means is uppercase versus lowercase. So the first black that I did was a lowercase b, and the second one was an uppercase b. So I need to fix that. I need to go up to the first data, and I need to change that black to be a capital B. I have blonde, 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 red. Looks like I need a space, and one of my blondes is lowercase and missing an E. So I need to clean my data. A lot of what statisticians do is they clean data. They go through and they make sure that the data is accurately entered. Are there zeros? Do I need to remove things? Let's go back up here. Okay, so now I have brown, black, blonde, red, gray, brown, and red. So I need to capitalize the brown and the red, and the 2 grays are different in the way that they're written. One is AY and one is EY. So I'm going to go to the end and change this to EY, and then find the data at the end to clean this. Yep, I want to fix it. I want to do it again. Now I'm back to my 5. This is what we're looking for. So if you're in my class later in the semester, we're going to do some projects where you are creating your own graphs and you're going to be entering data from different people. And a lot of times people will be typing the information in themselves, or you're copying and pasting. If you don't have consistency in the categories that you use, you're going to run into issues where you have a lot more options than you should. Hopefully this was helpful. Thank y'all for watching. Looking forward to next time.